Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I've been getting a lot of questions from people recently about Edge of Eternities, the collector boxes, and the high price on them, what I think about it, and what I'm doing as we go into the release somewhere around 4 or 5 weeks from now. We still have a little bit of time until we get there, but the price action has been, well, it's been dramatic. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to talk about it and what I think, and I think there's a lot to learn here. $329 today's current price. Now, this is a standard expansion. There are no serialized cards, and it is a hat set. And so, for all of those reasons, I think in general, the boxes should not be $329. I think the price of this will come down either as we get towards release or after release. Something really interesting happened here, and I have this plot zoomed in to the 1 month price so that each bar is an individual day. And what we see is this huge spike in volume back here on June 20th. And what was June 20th? That was a release day for Final Fantasy. And I was talking to a patron and I speculated, and this is kind of a weak theory, and there would be no way to prove it anyway. But I speculated that a lot of people came onto this website on Final Fantasy release day. They saw $1,200 for Final Fantasy collector boxes, or on release day, they were only about $900, weren't they? And they said, well, maybe the next set will also be a giant home run. And they piled into this as a substitute, hoping that every set will be gold. Now, WotC has absolutely fixed collector boxes over the last couple of years. We have to go back to Dominaria Remastered at the very beginning of 2023 to get to the old period of collector boxes before they fixed all the problems. And everything after that, from Phyrexia forward, was the new formula. And the only ones that have done bad since then have been hat sets. It's Murders, it's Cowboys, it's Duskmorn to some extent, but that one kind of recovered and came back. And this is a hat set, absolutely. It's technically a helmet set, as I try to make a joke. But I think that the overall balance of risk is not in your favor if you're buying them at $330. And here's where you really need to pay attention to the words coming out of my mouth. It's that the balance of risk is unfavorable. The odds of these boxes going down dramatically from $330 is much greater, in my opinion, than the odds of the boxes going dramatically up from $330. Now, might they kind of middle around? Yeah, maybe they go up or down only a mere $20 or $30 between now and release. Or maybe it's dramatic. Maybe they go up to $700 or $800 or $900. I can't see the future any more than you can. But what we do in investing, we don't try to predict the future. What we try to do is use our experience to get an idea of what the broad strokes are. You don't have to predict exact prices. You don't have to time things exactly. What you need to do is use your experience to say, I've seen things like this before, and in the past, they tended to do this. And when it comes to hat sets, when it comes to collector boxes with no serialized cards, and when it comes to standard expansion collector boxes, what we see overall, on the whole, is not this kind of amazing action this early. Now, Foundations also had no serialized cards. Now, it wasn't a hat set, but it was a standard expansion, and it did pretty well. It was up into the high 200s, up to the low 300s not long after release. It did really well. Now, like I said, it was not a hat set. So there is some precedent to some extent that things can go wildly upwards even if they are standard expansion collector boxes right after release. We've seen it plenty of times. We saw it with Bloomborough. We saw it a little while after release. Duskmorn took some time to kind of catch some wind and start going up. And definitely Foundations is a good example. Tarkir has done really well. But I think that the characteristics of this set on the whole mean that the downside risk is greater than the upside potential. And that's why I'm not buying it at this point. I'm expecting for these to go down. And you may say, Craig, but what if you're wrong? Yes, I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again in the future. But like I said, when you become an experienced investor, what you learn is that you're not trying to be right every time. You can't be right every time. What you do is you use your knowledge and experience and modeling in order to push the odds slightly in your favor. And that's worked out really well for me over the last 20 years. It's what's enabled me to now be on the cusp of ejecting from an engineering career to open a game store. It's because I've been incredibly successful as an investor, because I've learned that I'm not trying to predict the future every single time. So if I end up being wrong on this, big deal. I miss out on this one box. There's always more opportunity in the TCG market. That's one of the reasons I love it so much, is that if something like this, in my opinion, has much too lopsided risk attached to it, I can just skip it and I can just move on to the next thing. There's always more places to deploy capital. There's always more bets to take. And a lot of them, in my opinion, are going to be much more favorable than Edge of Eternities boxes at 330. So, we still don't have allocations for this product. Nobody's got it in their hands. We're still way too far out from release. The TCG expansion life cycle really has not even begun for this product. And so that, combined with it being a hat set, a standard expansion, and no serialized cards, just everything in my mind is stacked against it at this price. Now, if we were looking at this same product and it was today pre-selling for $180, and keep in mind that wholesale costs for these boxes are just a hair under $200. So if it were pre-selling at $180, I'd be telling you guys to go buy them. I'd be saying, yeah, you should probably lay in quite a bit of what you would eventually like to have, because the odds of it going down after release would still be there, but the downside risk would be much lower if it was already sitting at 180 instead of 330. And that's the difference. So let me know what you think, guys. That's my view on it. And I will let you know as we get closer to release, as the picture becomes more clear, as we see allocations, as we see speculations on print runs, everything else. And as we see the price action evolve over the next 3, 4, 5 weeks getting towards release, I will let you know if my opinion changes. But as it stands right now today, the downside risk is just too high compared to the upside potential given the characteristics of this box. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.